Hi, welcome to the Entrepreneur's Journey Live. I'm Natalie Fairchild. I almost said my maiden name. I have no idea why. And this is my co-host, Martin Nochez. How are you,
Hey,
Martin?
I'm well.
Oh
How
my
are
God.
you?
Good. Anybody want to know my maiden name? I almost said Natalie West. I have no idea why. So this should be a good show because it's already starting off great. So
We're
today,
glad your voice is back.
I know I lost my voice for a whole week. So
As
yeah,
I'm,
you're right. This is perfect timing.
as I'm beginning
Um,
to lose mine.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, it is the season of kids back to school, though mine are older, but everything's getting passed around.
Yep.
David, glad to see you, and he's excited for this one. We've got Susan here as well. Feel free to join us in the chat. We'd love to hear your questions and feedback and your banter and your funny comments. So, today we're talking about fire fast, hire faster, and promote the fastest.
Actually, it's higher fast, fire
Oh, did I
faster,
do that
promote
wrong?
fastest.
Oh, it is.
Just so that everybody gets it right. But yes,
Okay. Okay.
all,
Okay.
all three things do fast.
Do fast. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
So we had a whole episode with Candace Nochez with recruiting, and it was great. We went in deep with that. So she will put the link in here, or if it's not already there, and you can go back if you want to really listen to recruiting strategies and what is working well. But we'll touch on it today. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in. So the favorite one is firing fast, right? Is it faster? It's higher
This is
fast.
this is gonna be one of those.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
This is me. Welcome, everyone. This is
higher
me.
fast, higher
Higher
fast.
fast.
Right. So let's
Okay.
start there. Let's start with a question I think we're gonna carry over from another show where someone was asking, well, when do I start adding people?
Yes. That was a big question on our last episode. When do you
So,
go ahead?
you know, what I was gonna say is every business is going to have a different threshold of adding somebody, right? And the reasons you're going to add somebody are going to be different. But the main thing you need to know is that there's not only one way to do it, right? There are multiple ways to do it. You can test out processes. You can test out um, segments of what you do. And a potential way to test them out, and you got to do it carefully and you got to do it the way it's designed, is contractors. You can have a relationship with somebody who's doing something freelance that is a portion of the process that you need, right? And you'll just negotiate with them on a rate and then pass on that rate with an increase to the customer, right? You want to make sure that that math works. Number one mistake people make there is to do the 50-50 thing, right? Like if you're going to charge me $50 an hour for what you're going to do, then I bill that time at $100 an hour for my client. That more likely will result on you getting paid your hourly and me not keeping any of that money at the end.
So, what if you're a service based business and you are hiring someone and you're not ready to like do a price jump? Like we have standard pricing. So, we relook at it when we need to, but not any earlier than 6 to 12 months.
Mhm.
And obviously, your business is getting busier, so you need that extra person to be able to capitalize on the business that's coming in. So do you really need to up the price right away? Or are you talking more in a web developer contractor sense where
Yeah, it's a great
okay.
question. I'm talking about making sure that that doesn't hurt you in the long run. Like, so let's just say that, in your case, you have events, right? And all of a sudden you have a search of events. And let's say that it's at the very beginning of your journey and you didn't know exactly what that was going to mean. So then you start hiring people at $25 an hour just to like cover the need. That will be okay for a while, right? But eventually you will have to adjust and figure out how much is that really costing you, right? There's an
Mhm.
administrative cost, there's the time of the cost of acquisition for the customers. Like there's all these other things that you need to account for and essentially get paid for before it's all said and done, and you've just passed on the revenues to your contractors. That's what I mean, right? So
Okay.
if somebody has gotten to a place where, like, in order to not lose customers or in order to fulfill an order that already came in, you need to do a temporary hike, right? And that particular hike may not be sufficient to cover your expense, but it'll be sufficient to improve that relationship with the customer, to maintain it. That will probably be okay, but it is
Right.
those things require speed, right? You're going to find out quickly whether paying that amount is leaving anything on the table for you, or whether you're going to have to adjust going forward, right?
Gotcha. So in the service-based business, I mean, I know, we do events. We have part-time as needed employees. And pretty quickly I got the advice that, hey, you need to work on your business, not in your business. And you need to have people working those events so that you can be getting all the processes in place and doing all the marketing and bringing in those. You also have things like that I'm very passionate about, like balance of life. Like, are you getting overwhelmed? To Morgan's question, like, how do I know I've grown enough? Are you getting overwhelmed? It's something to check in with. Are the duties too much? Are you running around with your head cut off?
Yep.
It's a good time to focus in, say, what do I need to be doing? What are we doing too much of? How can I make things more efficient? You
Mhm.
also realize in that moment too that in the beginning of a business, we say yes to everything. A lot of people do that. I mean, I did that for sure.
Yeah.
Do you do this? Oh, we don't, but we'll pivot and spend a
I'll
shit
do it for
ton.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll spend a shit ton of money and time, like, figuring out how to make that work because we want it to be successful.
Yeah.
And then as you grow, you go, "Okay, we're not doing that anymore. No more, no more, no more." So
Well,
you're kind
that's
of in that realm too, but it's a learning process.
it's a great point, right? But that's the type of thing that this whole show is going to be about: speed as an entrepreneur, right? If you're Amazon, you can be like, hey, we made this strategy, and instead of $1.1 billion, we racked in 1.05. Okay, that's not going to hurt them, but for you, hanging on to a decision for too long may hurt you really badly in the long run, right? So
Right.
it's going to be about speed. The other thing you said that I think we need to circle back is part-time as needed is another form of bringing in people that you can test out processes with, you can test out new services with, right? And there's a lot of people out there that are trying to do this. Is it a long-term strategy that I recommend? Probably not, unless you're in a business like yours,
I was
right?
gonna say, well,
For you, it works fine, but for most businesses, the
yeah,
part-time thing ends up being a little bit of a trap,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now
Well, I can
you're an events-based business, which is an entirely different thing,
yeah.
right? But the other thing that I think is worth recovering here is that when you start adding processes and you start testing things, like you said, right? Somebody asks for a product that is adjacent to what you do, but it's not quite what you do. Testing through contractors is a great way of doing a little bit of research and development, right?
Yeah,
Let's find out
absolutely.
if something fits, if something is not a tremendously onerous add-on to the business, but if it can be added and it's profitable and you can figure out the math of it, that's a good way of testing things out.
For sure. Yeah, it's not to say don't do that because it is a learning process either way.
Right.
You'll
And then I wanted to say one more thing to fully answer Morgan's question.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanna hit that one hard.
Morgan, here's what happens, right? Most people do the overflow method to hire people, okay, and that tends to fail.
Okay, what's
Here's what
the
I mean.
overflow?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm getting there. I'm getting
This
there.
is why I'm here, everyone,
Here's
because
here's what I
Morgan's
mean.
brain
Right?
is amazing, but we
I- Imagine yourself as a vessel. Imagine yourself as a container, right? And then you start adding things to that container, adding things until it gets full to the brim, and then it starts effectively overflowing. What a lot of people do is that they take that overflow and then they hire somebody to catch that overflow.
Right.
right? So all of a sudden, right? Yeah, you do it, you get a little freedom because at least you're not drowning. But what happens invariably is that you start coming into the office or coming into the place of work or looking at your outcomes, and all of a sudden you're still busy at 100% because all you did is gave away the overflow, and this person is busy at a 30%. Right? They're just sort of coasting, and you're paying them hourly, and all of a sudden you either resent them or you think you made the wrong decision by bringing someone in. Right? You think it was too early, and the best way of doing this is to start thinking as the business as a collection of different processes. And if you can start saying, okay, look, what am I not good at? Or what am I not quick enough at? Or what do I hate, right? That I don't want to do.
100%.
I'm going to hire somebody who will do that really well. Right? That's also going to help you also going to help you get better hires, right? Because it's very, very, very difficult for you to hire somebody who can do all the things you can do well enough in a smaller amount of time, right? But if you say, look, you're going to do my accounting, right? You're going to do my bookkeeping, and there happen to be a bookkeeper trained person, they'll do that way better than you, right? And you can agree on how much time they're going to do it. It'll be easier for you to find them versus if you want somebody who do your bookkeeping, who'll do sales with you, who will do customer service, and who will make coffees, right? Like that is not going to work because there's very likely that they're going to suck at least one or two of those things, and
Yeah.
you're going to resent them, right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to work for you to wait till you're super busy to pass on the excess. You're going to have to make choices, right? And the choice is going to be, all right, what is it that I'm good at? I'm going to hang on to that. I'm going to do more of that, right? And that means I'm not going to have time to do any of this other stuff. That is what I'm hiring for. And that's the type of employee I'm going to go find.
100%. And that may be an employee, that might be a contractor, that might be a
All of it.
virtual
Exactly.
assistant, or it
100%.
might be a vendor. It might be a vendor. So one thing
Might be a
to
service. Yes.
Yeah, it might be a service. So one thing
Correct.
to remember that we say a lot, and we had Mindy Vale on the last time, is that you as a small business owner do not need to know everything and do everything well to be successful. It's actually quite the opposite. What you need to do is put your ego aside and know where you're strong and where you have weaknesses, because we all have them, and figure out how to pull those people in. Not, again, not necessarily employees, they could be vendors,
It could be
and
software.
it could be software tools to help you in those areas. That will make you successful in itself, is just recognizing that you are not in the business to bang your head against the wall if bookkeeping is not your thing. Believe me, I have tried it. I've caused myself more pain. It's just not happening for me. So that I just wanted to point that out, that you don't have to know everything. You do not have to be good at everything. Just be open to surrounding yourself with the people that help. So,
Know thyself is going to be probably
know
the
thyself.
best business advice you'll ever get, right?
Yes.
If you start being honest about what you're good at, what you like, what you envision your business to be, then you're going to start figuring out, what is it that you need to pass on?
Yeah.
How is it that you're going to get people in that can do that, right? And then you got to have really, really uh, sort of contained expectations of what somebody will come in and do,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
These, it, it, the amount of times I get somebody saying, "Look, I need somebody who will do my books and who will do sales calls and who will do macrame that we sell," right? And like, which is it, right?
Right.
It's going to be virtually impossible for you to find somebody like that. You're going to convince yourself that in the marketplace there's no candidates or nobody wants to work, which is
Yeah.
horrible. Or you're going to just forever think that you're going to be the one, right? You need to be
Yeah.
the one who does it all.
Yeah, perfect. And so if anybody wants to pick my brain on recruiting for that part-time as needed position, not that we need to talk about it today, but I have a kind of a sweet spot on how we do that. So I'm happy to chat with you on the side. Now, we spent 15 minutes on hiring, and actually, it was way better than I thought it was going to be. And now it is time to go into firing. So, David, here we are. Um, it's one of David's favorite things to do. No, just
Apparently.
kidding. Um,
Uh, yeah,
but yeah, the bad apple, we keep them on with most people, Martin. Do you see that they keep them on longer than they should?
right.
And sometimes it helps me with the analogy of you have your A plus employees and then you rate that person. And often they're a C at best. And you're like, so are we okay with like a B minus employee? Like, is that who we are as a company?
Yeah.
And is that worth having around? No, it isn't.
Look, I think that the origin of this problem begins maybe even before that, right? There's all of this conversation about, by the way, if you Google the title of this episode, you'll find a lot of articles saying how this is a mistake. The hire fast logic is a mistake. I challenge it, right? Read all of it and come up with your own conclusions. But here's what happens, right? A lot of people are going to make you believe that hiring someone is such a massive undertaking and it is incredibly deterministic of your future as a company, and don't make mistakes doing that, right? So they'll like build it up so much that people think, first of all, they take forever hiring, they take forever screening and interviewing and make people do all sorts of crazy things in order to bring them in, that after you brought somebody in, you've been so invested in the process that you don't want to let them go, even if they fail miserably at the job. Like, you made it all, you missed all of the red flags, you missed all of the not fits, right? All of the things that are not going to work out, you missed it. And now there's somebody there who said they could do it, they lied on the resume, or they just simply cannot do it, and you feel like you're stuck. Oh well, it took us so long to hire this person, the cost of hire, and there's all this conversation. Again, you guys, you're not Amazon, right? The cost of hire starts making sense once you start hiring 22,000 people a month, right? And and yes, the time training. And here's the thing, right? That may still be worth losing, right? Because if somebody went through your training and they're still
Yeah.
not doing the job,
Yeah.
right? Your people who went through the training and are doing the job are going to resent you and resent the company for you keeping the one who obviously can't,
100%. I hear that all the time. All the
right?
time.
So again, right, hiring is not the end all be all, right? You can make mistakes, you're likely to make mistakes, and if you do, the quicker you recognize them, the better switch you can switch positions.
Now,
Here's
are
the other
we
thing.
also talking about relationships too? Could this go for dating and relationships?
Yes. uh, but that's the point, right? Like, because that's how people look at relationships too. Oh, it was
Totally.
so hard. It was so hard to find them, right?
The
And he's
money
not perfect,
investment.
but the money investment, the time
Yeah.
investment,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, trust me,
See
that
how he's
definitely is a,
waving those red flags. It's just
yeah,
so
he's,
beautiful.
he's draped on red flags, but you're like, no, like, give him a chance. But no, but
Okay,
that's the
back
thing,
on track.
when you are capable of looking at somebody and being like, look, there's this category of things that you're supposed to do. These are the category of things you're failing at. Right? You can always be like, okay, well, this is the pathway and this is the gap. Right?
Right,
Can we do that? Right? And
right.
if the answer is yes, let's give it a limited amount of time to try it. And if the answer is no, we're done here. Right?
Mhm,
You're not
mhm.
going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So David's asking about, firing fast. So he says he's great at that, but he's been told he doesn't document enough, and he really need to start writing people up. So
Yeah.
it kinda goes back to the work that sometimes is hard to do, but to get the objectives for the
Yeah.
work that that person's going to be doing lined out. So it's very black and white. Have you
Right.
met this objective? Have you not? And you do need to give them, feedback and even if it's an email exchange, ask for a reply back that they understand where we're at here. And then you just put that in your little email box and say that, because you do need to do that, because there are all kinds of legal things to look out for. And in the state of Washington, where we are, they're very pro employee, sometimes to the point where it can be very challenging. So it's good to make sure that, the facts are the facts, the objectives were laid out, they did not meet the
Right.
objectives, and document, document, document.
Right. So first thing is, Susan is absolutely right. If they're a contractor, both of you have a completely at will relationship. Either or one of you can say we're
Yes.
done at any time. So
Yes.
yes. Now here's the thing, David. We're not lawyers, right? We're not employment lawyers. This is not legal advice, right? What I'll tell you is the following. There's a lot of reasons for the documenting part that people talk about. One of the main reasons is unemployment, right? Like, so somebody claiming unemployment comes through a process, right? And
Mhm.
they need to be terminated for reason in order for them to, you know, comply with all the unemployment requirements and then get paid unemployment, etc. Right? So there's that part of the, and then you want to make sure that in your company in general, there's no real reason or excuse for somebody to claim anything illegal is happening. What do I mean by illegal? It's anything around the lines of hostile work environment, discrimination, anything to do with somebody being witness to something illegal, etc. Right? Like
Mhm.
down to tax evasion or anything like that. Right? So as long as none of that is happening, most states, and you got to check your own, right? Most states have this thing called at will employment, which is not necessarily employee friendly. Right? And what that means is that provided that it's not for an illegal reason, you can terminate the relationship with an employee at any time. Right now, is it the decent thing to give somebody an opportunity and to say, look, this again, like Natalie said, these are the parameters, this is what we need to do, you are missing this by this much, right? I'll give you 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month, however, to fill that gap. And if not, we're going to have a different conversation. Yeah, that's the decent thing to do, because you want to have somebody have an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But basically,
So
that's as deep as documentation as you will need.
so Morgan brings up, it makes her ill, or him ill to fire someone. And
Yes.
so again, the documentation really, really helps that, Morgan, for sure.
Mhm.
And you need to remember that we need to take that out of the emotion out of it and the guilt out of it. It is not the best thing, but I can tell you time and time again, that have been fired, and that people have been honest with them and had expectations that they didn't meet. We are not enabling these employees. We're actually growing them when we say you're not a fit. And if they are reflective, they will gain so much knowledge from that experience. We can do it respectfully and with dignity, and wish them the very best. And it is a learning experience that sometimes we all need. It's good feedback for them. And it's good practice for us to have those healthy boundaries of what you're going to accept in your company, you've got a commitment to your clients, and you want to make sure that you're hiring the best person for that, so you can be letting your clients and your employees down. So it is hard, but not enabling people and being direct and honest with them grows a person, I fully believe, and that's my heart perspective.
E- easiest way to reconcile that, Morgan, for yourself is you want to talk to people that work for you the way you wish you were talked to.
Hmm.
Right? You want to be like, look, in order to win, in order to succeed in your position, these are the objective things you need to do. Right? And you got to be clear about that. And people need to be able to see the steps that lead them to getting those things successfully accomplished. Right? That's it. Right? So if they are not, you got to say, look, I've seen you, and where we are failing, what we're missing is this, and that. Right? I need to give you an opportunity to accomplish that. If they don't, then you're going to say, hey, I'm sorry, but you didn't fit those criteria that we talked about. We're going to have to part ways. Now, I work with a lot of companies that get real good at this process in such a way that there's employees who come back and say, you know what? I learned that thing that you were telling me I needed to
Mhm.
learn. Can I have another shot? Right? The people, if people are going to be able to come back with that, you've done your job and you've been talking to people the way you like to be talked to.
Yeah. One thing I remember, Martin, is I had an employee and it wasn't going well and it was tearing me up because I had to make that decision and I didn't want to have the conversation. And the next day I came in and there was a letter saying, her resignation. And it almost like hurt my ego a little bit. I was like,
She beat you to
damn,
the punch.
she beat me to the punch. But I remember you saying that's the best thing that could happen. It's
Look, I mean,
not a bad thing that that happened.
you got to put it all in context, right? Don't
Yeah.
quote me here and make me look like a monster. But you build something that is so clear
Mhm,
for everyone that people fall in or they
mhm,
fall out.
mhm.
They can make their choice, right? They can look
Yeah,
at this
yeah,
company, right? In this company, we keep our promises. In this company, we deliver things on time. In this company, we start and end meetings on time. In this company, if I say I'm going to do something, I get it done by the end of the day. Like whatever that culture, right, or behavioral code is, needs to be so damn clear that some people are going to be like, I'm not cut out for this. And they're
mhm,
going to self
mhm.
eliminate.
Yeah, yeah, or in your relationships.
Yes, that too.
Okay.
We're gonna start a dating podcast.
You'd be great for that as well, and I've have some great stories, so anyway, that'd be a good idea.
I used to do that
Oh, I'm
a
sure
long
you
time ago.
did. You did everything.
It's a thing. No, I
You
just
did
don't want to go back
everything.
to that. Uh,
Really? Oh my god, let's do it.
there's stories. Okay, but the speed of it all, right, is what makes the difference. Okay. Yes, David.
David says entrepreneurs after dark.
The
Oh my
this
god, I love it. Okay, go ahead.
we definitely want to try that one, right? Like make
Yes,
it like a
yes,
happy hour thing. Um,
yes, I love
the
it.
the speed of it all is what makes a difference, right? We're gonna recap. If you nail down your process, what are you looking for, what the criteria is, and you move people through it quickly and you say, you know what, you look like you'll fit, plus my training, right? Because this is something we haven't talked about, right? But plus training, you seem like a good fit. Let's do it, right? Don't make him do a presentation. Don't make him do 29 interviews. Don't make him do a bunch of free work. It's like make your criteria known, ask the relevant questions, and take a risk with somebody. Once
Mhm,
they're in, if they are working well, recognize it. If they're not working
mhm,
well, talk about it constantly, right? Like
mhm.
don't let it just linger. People
Right,
want to know more than anything, they want to know how they're doing.
right,
And if
right.
you can deliver that, you're a good boss. And then, if they're not, move on it quick.
Yeah, for sure. One more thing I thought in my experience is that we were ready to hire like a business development person, but I was nervous as a very small business. How do you do that? And I wasn't ready financially to do that full time. And we found a great person who loved what we did and really liked that person and ended up starting her part time in that arena, and so she kept kind of her side thing going. And then it developed and we could see where it was going and that it was beneficial. And she's been with us over 7 years and the role has completely evolved and changed. And she's a valuable part of the business. So that just came up in my mind as another idea in the realm of things. So
That's possible, and there's a specific approach to it, right? Where you can ask somebody to build a part of the business, right? If it's something that
mhm,
is not built, you say, look, I need a way to better talk about what we do with potential prospects and have them move over and say
yeah.
yes, right?
Yeah.
That's the criteria. Uh,
Yeah.
you can build it, right? You're going to continually communicate with me as to how you build that, right? But we cannot do it on a full-time basis. Let's say that you have a day job or you have another part-time thing. We can do this, and if you build it, it's for you, right? You can allow them to build their own side of the vessel and run with it, right? That happens all the time. You got to be cautious on the metrics. Right? You got to be cautious on the metrics.
Yeah.
You have to have a relationship that is clear from the get-go as to like, what are we measuring?
Hmm.
How are we knowing
Hmm.
at any given time that this is being successful?
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are creative. So when it's like doing that work or make sure the criteria is lined out, my eyes are like,
Yeah.
oh God, I gotta do brain work. Um,
Yes.
yeah. And so we can miss those things and we can make decisions on feelings, which I make a lot of business decisions on feelings.
How it feels. Yeah.
Which is one way. Um, but yeah, but it's a good reminder, Martin, because those things are really important to kind of
Yeah.
set yourself up
And
correctly.
look, you don't have to be a business analyst to figure out whether something is successful, right? If you're literally talking about number of people that come in as one-time customers, that's it.
Yeah.
You, in order for us to pay you what you need to be paid, we need to be able to generate 11. Oh, that's too much, and that doesn't fit. Well, then we're not ready for it, right? We can't do it. Right? You
Yeah.
don't want to lower the number in order for somebody to try it out if you're not going to be able to. And then you all of a sudden you're paying for
Right.
somebody to
For not a
test
lot.
something out, right? And
Yeah.
that's ultimately going to hurt you. You're going to
Right.
think that it's impossible and it's not going to work.
Right, right. I think it's also a really good opportunity for a very small business when you're adding people is to take some talent that is fresh and new and starting out, but you sense all those soft skills in them and being able to be a mentor and collaborate with that person, you can get leverage a lot of wonderful things in that situation too. It's kind of like when a photographer's starting out and they're as talented as the photographer with like a million views on Instagram and followers or whatever. You can get a lot of great stuff from that emerging talent that's happening. And so that's always a fun one where it's a win-win, where
Yeah.
the person gets to practice a few things and you get that expert advice and the collaboration.
In technical environments, access is a big thing, right? Like most people who are electricians, plumbers, uh, you know, landscape architects, they're like, they have knowledge, but they haven't had opportunities to show it, right?
Right. Okay, I see what you mean.
And,
Absolutely.
and if you happen to have a avenue for that, then you can start an agreement with them and say, look, I'll put you in front of customers, right? And this is how the split works. This is how the the benefit mutually lands on both of us.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's as an approach as old as time, right? It's the apprenticeship approach,
Right. Exactly. Exactly. All
which is
right.
common in technical things.
Yeah, right. So are we good with firing, or is there any other hot
Any other firing questions?
triggers, any hot points about that? Like, how do I get there? If so, put it in the chat. And then we move on to promoting, which you've really changed our view of this trajectory. And you talk about it, and you've been on my HR coffee talk about how important it is. A lot of people, especially coming into the workforce now,
Yeah,
really want to know what it is to win, like what that looks like, what those steps are,
right.
and having that lined out. And that did take us a little bit of time to kind of feel through that and figure out what the tiers of a perkologist would be. But
Yeah,
it's been so great because they know the trajectory. It's lined out what they need to do. This will give them more income, seniority, food events, different things like that. And it's been wonderful for us. So tell us a little bit
yeah.
more about that.
Okay, so hang on, right? But because this is a little different than what you hear all the time. So I'm going to paint you the picture of what you hear all the time. You hear all the time is that you hire people, you train them, you decide to keep them, and then after that, you give them a yearly review,
Right.
right? And in that yearly review, they will probably expect a raise, and you got to do a cost of living adjustments and a raise, right? That's what most people look at the progression of somebody. The other scenario is they encounter holes in their process and they promote people ad hoc, right? So they just go like, I guess we're gonna have Mary do that now, and I guess we're gonna pay a little more because it's more complex, right? And that's as profound as the promotion approach gets. Here's what I say. First thing is there's a big movement on what's called salary transparency. If you check your state regulations already, for most for most of you, it already says you need to transparently display the compensation on job postings, right? So that people know. That helps the employees that are currently in positions that are similar or the same for them to know whether they're being compensated properly. And then there's a bigger move that's going to be rolled out about how everyone needs to know what the compensation is inside the organizations. That's a big departure from what used to happen before, where companies
Yeah.
had rules about employees not talking about it,
Right.
which, by
Right.
the way, is illegal. So if you
Right.
have employees and you have any sort of like thing in your handbook that says that they shouldn't discuss compensation, take it out because it's illegal, right? It's
Okay,
illegal
you
for you to
just
put
scared
that.
a couple people. They're like, "Handbook? I don't have a handbook." We'll talk about that next.
they
It's
should they
fine.
should have a
It
little
Yeah,
should have a little bit of one. And it's not
yeah.
that hard to put together. But if there's somewhere in your company where it says in an official capacity people shouldn't discuss compensation with others, maybe you want to take it out, right? Because they should be able to if they choose to disclose to each other's compensation. Okay. So with all of that as background, the way I the way I put it in place is the following. I encourage business owners to think of positions, not people, right? You want to start thinking of positions where people could step into. That's the first thing. The second thing is for every position, there should be levels. And this is sounds complicated, but it's very simple. Levels are 1 through 3 or 1 through 4. Levels are somebody's coming into that position and they're training, right?
Right.
So they don't
Right.
know it all. They're not ready to be in front of customers, but they're training.
Right.
My context is you want to have a compensation. Like that's your entry point, right? It has a comp.
And for us,
Then
they're only in that for maybe a week and a half before they go to the next level.
which is fine, right? But there should be a comp to that. Right? That is a way to offset something that I think Susan was saying, the cost of training, right? The cost of training. Yeah, I mean, training has a cost. It's going to take time away. But you should be paying training level compensation at that point.
And it really depends also on the type of position. So if
Yeah,
you're hiring a higher
you're hiring
level
a surgeon.
position,
Yeah, if you
you
yeah.
need to give them benefits on day one, and also the pay needs to be competitive.
Okay. So once you have that, right, like you have a training period. After the training period, by the way, the training period should end in some sort of evaluation or certification, right? Where like you get to say, hey, you passed, right? This is a pass fail type thing. And then the compensation adjusts, right? So that's level 2. So there's somebody who's trained for the position, right? They're trained, but they need a lot of supervision, right? They trained and they're constantly pushing things up to their management. The next level up is they're trained and they're able to operate autonomously, or that you can trust them to operate autonomously, right? So that's another level up. And then the fourth level is they can train others. They don't necessarily need
Yeah.
to be able to train others in the entire thing, although they can, but they need to be available and able to train people in segments of their position, right? If you have those 4 tiers and they're open and everybody knows what the compensation goes for those, people know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And my approach to companies is like, let them advance on that stuff as quickly as they want,
Or as slow as they want.
or as slow as they want.
Some people are comfortable at a 2 and they just
some
wanna
people
stay at
don't
a 2.
some people don't ever want to train anybody else, right?
Right.
But they
Right.
shouldn't expect trainer level compensation,
Correct.
right? But
Yeah.
that's when you start paying for what people know and what people are able to do versus for how long they've been there. If you
Now, are
look
you
at that,
talking more of for hourly employees? I mean, because we have hourly employees. Are you even salary?
what's the
Even
difference?
corporate? Yeah.
What's the difference? I mean, like if my salary is this much, right? If
Mhm.
I'm able to train other people, I should be paid more. If I'm asked to train other people, I should be paid more.
Mhm.
If I'm
Mhm.
multiplying my position for the company, I should be
Mhm.
paid more.
Yeah, yeah. So Morgan asked a good question. What if they're performing, but I don't have the work or money to promote them?
Well,
So you might, yeah, I want your take on that for sure. But you might want to put a time period within each tier too. Like they have to be in this tier for 6 or 9 months. If you are projecting that, gosh, I can't really get them there financially that fast. That's one thing that you could do, or you try and cut something somewhere because you've got a motivated employee and you got to look at the return that you're getting on them. You're not training them. Now somebody else is, and you're out marketing and bringing new business in. It usually works out, but I know that that is a heart perspective.
yeah.
So we're going to take it over to the brain.
Well, I mean, like, look, if you're hiring, say, an in-house bookkeeper, which is a classic example for me of somebody who there's almost no scenario where you're going to need a bunch more bookkeepers under them, right? You need the one. So there's never going to be a training thing. There's never going to be a mastery level, right? There's only going to be your training them, fully trained, fully autonomous, right? And that's it. So they know that that's where that comp scale ends. Now, in your case, Morgan, I don't know, I don't remember exactly what you do, but you could actually think about, like Natalie said, right, time, and you could talk to someone about, okay, well, the criteria for building your position, right? The criteria for building is this level of growth, right? So definitely web services. Okay, yeah, for sure, right? So if you have somebody who will be just delivering work and they are not doing any business development, so they're fully dependent of what you can feed them. Time is going to be your friend, and you're going to say, look, I don't think I can expand this any more than this, right? And the quality of your work needs to reflect this, and these are the criteria for success at that level. At some point, right, you may have enough work that you have other people that are more junior to this person, and then it'll make sense to pay them more, right? But you can say, as long as we don't have any junior people for you to train, this is the cap. And some people may choose to stay with you for it, and some people may tell you this is not going to be for me because I need more, right?
Yeah. And it's being honest and open about where you're at as a business owner. People can appreciate that so
Yeah.
much. And it opens up other opportunities too. And you have no idea what can happen. So
Not,
if their work is really good and it might be worth it because you're getting more business from your clients because the work is so good and they're referring you on to people, that kind of thing.
scale is all about people, right?
Yeah.
Scale is begins with process, but it's all about people.
I feel like, Martin, one thing that I have tended to be focused on is the fear of it and just looking at where I'm at right now and feeling like my position right now will never change. Like and not going, okay, if I have this person in, we are going to go here and then that's going to look completely different. Sometimes I look at my budget and sales and just go, okay, this is what we're working for the rest of our life type of thing, mentality. And I have to kind of shift that to go, no, that's not always the case. We're going to be at a different level and this is how we're going to get there.
I mean, talk about scale. You like added an entire different layer of the business to scale, right? So the scale now happens there, and yeah, you
Yeah.
will need a lot more people
Yeah.
as you scale that side, the franchise side of the business.
Yeah. So David,
Exactly.
yes,
David is
we
calling it
are
out.
franchising.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you literally are
Yeah.
about scale, right?
Yeah.
And are
Right.
about to scale.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I know it's silly, honest verbal thoughts that go through my head that I know that I just need to like shift a little bit. The mind shift effect.
Yeah. And you want to cause yourself a problem, right? Like this is another controversial thing that I say to CEOs all the time. It says your job is to be a problem creator and to surround yourself with problem solvers, right? So you're gonna be able to create new problems. How do we go after this new market? How do we go after this entirely new service branch? Where do we how do we grow? How do we scale? Those are all problems, right, that you're generating. And
Yeah.
the good CEO is somebody who can create problems that are worthy of your organization.
I like to call them challenges.
Oh yeah, David is bringing up David's bringing up something that I really really like.
My
Okay.
hesitation in all this training and promoting and shit is when they take all that and leave. Oh, that's
Yes.
a good one.
So here's the thing, right? There's a common story that goes around the web. It says, what if they take my training and leave? Right? That's the question somebody's asking. And the mentor says, what if you don't train them and you fail?
So good. So good.
Right?
I think
Because
that's an yeah. Go ahead.
there's entire companies who have created a lot of success and a lot of a lot of their reputation surrounding their good training. One of them that I always use as an example is Enterprise. See, Enterprise is it's an okay company. I mean, they're not blowing anybody's socks off. They're like number three or something on their niche,
But
and
they
and they're just
focus on those college students graduating, they put them in suits,
and they have
train
a
them.
kick-ass managerial training program. I have worked with companies that specifically seek out people who have been through that program, right?
Yep.
So one way or another, the company is getting the value of those really well-trained managers that move through their company fairly quick. In my view, they could pay better and they could expand that, right, and make like an executive training level thing. But they get the value out of that training, right? They
Mhm.
get it in
Mhm.
reputation, they get it in,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever had a bad experience renting from Enterprise, and I've had a lot of bad experiences renting from a bunch of others.
Mhm.
And those people are really really young, really really well trained, really really good managers. So I'm
Mhm.
like, why not have that, even if the whole purpose is for them to just sort of fall off the top. Right.
Yeah.
Now,
And I think this
you don't want to build that as a small business. You don't want to build something where like everybody falls off the top, right? But the example is that you can get a lot out of really well trained people, even if they go on and be, even if they're your competitors, right? Like there's plenty of business for people. There's
yes.
plenty of work for all of us.
It's the scarcity mindset a little bit, and I've felt it before when your feathers get kinda ruffled about it, when you see someone leave, but as I've been in business and evolved, I really feel like it's a mentoring
Right.
opportunity.
Now,
So,
uh, go ahead. Sorry, man.
yeah, no, no problem. So it's just we need to take the ego away a little bit and we need to see these people for who they are, and we want them to be the type of people that are so engaged in what they're doing and love it that it shows in their work, and they might be one to start their own business.
Yes.
And it is bittersweet, as Susan said, but it's also heartwarming. It's like I was involved in their growth. I've had a person that was in the dental industry. She was off on Fridays and the weekend, and she thought working for us would be really fun. She discovered that she loves hospitality. She is now a flight attendant for Alaska, living her best life. So through that, we got to help her see something. I also have another employee that started her own coffee truck business. And at first I was like, oh, but then I was like, oh my gosh, we were part of that.
And that's not a
that that
competitor to you.
and it's not a competitor. And we created that knowledge and that training for her, and that how to treat customers, for her to be able to have her own business.
And
So,
here's the other thing, Susan, and this is why sort of like I short circuited trying to get back to your question. Uh, if that happens too often, you may want to start looking at, well, how do I add that level of scale so that I can keep them in my firm, right? So that I can grow my firm with this talent.
mhm.
Because if they're good enough, right, to work with you, and they're good enough to do the work, and they're good enough to go and try to do their own thing, there's a lot more that they could potentially contribute to you. And that's one of those sort of crucial moments where you start measuring the difference between contractor with potential employee, right? Or even contractor with potential partner.
Perfect. And as far as the franchising side, for me, we have some great employees that have become licensing, owners, or, talking to a few
Franchise.
people right now that are, yeah, looking at being franchisees. And what better way to do it? Also, in the tax department, people starting their own business as a solo tax accounting person really makes me nervous because if something happens to them, like, there's no backup in the office to help out. So it's like, oh, side note.
There's certain industries, right, and certain businesses that do really well acquiring small practices, right? They do really well acquiring established little practices. A lot of service people do that really well, right? If you're an electrical installation company, you start looking for those electricians that are like solopreneurs and they have their shit together, and you go, hey, would you like to be part of this, right? Take your book of business and we'll support you, and we'll basically pay you slightly better than you'd be taking on for yourself. And you won't have to do the admin, or you'll have to do only the admin that you're really good at, right? Like there's an opportunity to bring them in and to grow with them.
Yeah, that's a great one for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. What do
All
we
right.
got, Candace? I know we had some questions that were coming up last time.
Who's
Apologize
calling?
for that. Anyway.
Well, let's start talking about our next time.
Yeah, because it is 11 or 12:52. Crazy, crazy. We covered all of our questions. Amazing. Well, if you have anything else, put it in there. Um, and of course, Martin is always available for a little one-on-one if you want to go through something you're challenged with, in particular. And I as well. Harper and Gracie writing job descriptions and promotion trajectories feels overwhelming. Start with templates and use AI. So I'm reminded of this constantly. Use AI to kind of get a template and then rip it apart and add your information in, because sometimes a blank page is so overwhelming. And you can also look up templates online. Um, Southwest SHRM organization, if you're ever interested in that, they have lots of templates for job descriptions and promotion things, that you can again start with as a template.
You also may
Um,
want to watch our episode on hiring that we did with Candace.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Maybe Candace, you can put that in there again. So our next show is Wednesday, October 2nd, which is absolutely crazy that our next episode is in October. Where is the time going? Slow it down. And I'm really, really excited about this. I think the listeners, the active listeners that we have, will really appreciate this. Janet Konevsky with the Greater Vancouver Chamber, she's the vice president there. She is, if you don't know Janet, she is dynamic, super intelligent, strong woman, very passionate about what she does. She's done so many great things for the community and different programs and aims to do amazing things. So she's going to be talking a lot about how the chamber can help your small business. They have programs and mentor programs as a new or small business that you can be paired up with another business that actually helps you go through these different stages and work through these things. So that's just one program I can't wait to hear more about. But the other programs are workforce related, where you can get interns, which is a great thing for small business. Again, keeping that talent locally, and much more coming from her. So that'll be a really good eye opener. I've been involved with the chamber, but still, there's so much I don't know, and there's so much opportunity. So she's a wealth of information and resources.
Gonna be a fun one. And if you obviously not from the greater Vancouver area, she's going to think of her as a representative of the same Vancouver, same chambers that are in your areas, right? There are programs that are shared, and
Yeah.
most of them are going to basically be about the same for you, regardless of what area you are in.
Yeah, perfect. And there's lots of different programs that we can talk about as well. And David asked about vendor management. Have we talked about vendor management? So I don't know if that's something that we want to just note down. Candace will write that down, and we can definitely, I think that's a great topic to talk about as well. So we will keep them going. Thank you so much for your interaction today, and always making us laugh and being real and vulnerable, and asking the questions that you want to know. So anyway,
Yeah, thank you guys. And
yeah,
just to reiterate, if anyone wants to set up some time to meet, we love doing that. We love mentoring small businesses, and either one of us is available for that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. And vendors, Morgan says vendors, but also software and tools. Oh, yeah. Life hacks. Life hacks for small business. We'll title that.
I have
How's
plenty to
that?
say about software, Morgan.
Yeah. 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 Perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week. You are halfway through it. So keep
Thanks,
businessing
guys.
on.
See you soon.